Welcome, everybody. Got a pretty decent, fun show for you tonight. I'm going to pull in my guest here in a minute, Joe Thomas, from down under, our favorite Aussie political commentator. I just love getting his perspective on what the heck is going on here in American politics. I'm going to invite and pull Joe Thomas in a second. Cece, hi. I want to say hi to a bunch of you as you come in, though. Kevin, hello. Clyde, hello. Tammy, hi. Malcolm and Lev are live together. Two good guys. Linda from Florida, hello. Hello, Mary B. Christina, right back at you. Cody, hello. Christina, hello. Hello to everybody. Jane, hi. Marnie, everybody else. Millie. I just love that name, Millie. I might name my next female dog Millie. Love the name. Joe in Arizona, welcome, my friend. Christine Anderson, welcome. Come on in, everybody. Thank you for joining. Hope your week is off to a pretty good start. A thought at the top here. We all live in our bubbles. All of us do. I know many of you feel like, oh, Joe, MAGA lives in their bubble, Joe. And by the way, yeah, punch those red hearts. I don't know what it does, but I've been told it does something really, really good. So punch those red hearts. We all live in a bubble. We all, right, tend to hang around with people who think like us. We all tend to go online to online sources that confirm what we believe. We do the same with TV. We do the same with podcasts and Substack. We all kind of live in our comfortable political bubbles. I think in the extreme, that's a really dangerous thing. I think we need more perspective. I think we need to be smarter. And I think to gain more perspective, understanding, to get smarter. Hi, Bob B. Hey, Kimmy Brooks. We all got to make an effort to get outside of our bubbles. If you're a good, solid Democrat, you need to go to sources regularly that just do not echo what you believe. You're MAGA, you're a Trump supporter, man, you ought to be listening to the other side on a regular basis. It's good for you. It's good for you. It will make you smarter, more compassionate, more understanding. But as I've said now for a long time, it's good for this country. It's good for America. This country's dangerously divided, guys. I mean, dangerously divided. And one of the reasons, hi, Cece, one of the reasons, hi, Juan, that we're so dangerously divided is because we live in these bubbles. And if we stay in these bubbles, eventually we get to where we are today, where we hate the people who don't live in our bubbles, who don't think like we do. And down that road, eventually down that road, that hate, that feeling that that person who doesn't think like me is my political enemy, that then leads to political violence. Hello, Melissa. A long-winded way of saying we Americans in general live in a bubble. Most studies that are done about how aware people in industrialized countries are of the world around them, in most of these studies that are done, Americans grade very poorly. We historically in America know much less about the world around us than the world around us knows about us. That's a problem. Way too many Americans are ignorant about the world around this country. I think it's also then so helpful to hear from people who aren't in our bubble, but hear from people who don't live in America about what's going on in this country. Look, I can tell you till I'm blue in the face that I think this world's greatest democracy is teetering. I don't know that America can hang on. I don't know that America will hang on. I don't know that America will stay together. I don't know that our democracy will survive. I believe that. It's interesting to hear what people, educated and informed people from around the world, think about this country. Do they feel the same way? Are they like thinking, oh my God, America's imploding, America's done? What do they think about Trump? What do they think about what's going on politically in this country right now? This will help educate us. Hi, Rick in Maine. That's a very long-winded introduction to my guy, Joe Thomas, who I'm about to pull in. Joe Thomas is an Aussie. He's down in Australia. He's got a great political newsletter, the Joe Thomas newsletter. He's on Substack. You all ought to follow him and subscribe to him. He puts out some really good, interesting shit from an Aussie's perspective, somebody down in Australia who's very well informed about what's going on here in this country. I've had him on before. I hope to have him on every now and then because I find him really doggone interesting. I'm going to try to pull my friend Joe Thomas in right now. There. Nope, nope, nope. That's wrong. Never mind. Cancel that. I'm going to do it again. Joe Thomas, I'm coming. Don't move, everybody. Come on in. Welcome to everybody. Let me try that again. Joe Thomas. There he is. I'm going to pull. I now just invited Joe Thomas in. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting for Joe Thomas. By the way, there he is.
Hello. G'day.
Joe.
How are you?
How are you, man?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to see you, my friend. What time is it where you are?
In Australia, so I'm in Brisbane, Australia. It's just about 10:07 in the morning. So yeah, so I think it's what 7:08 at night.
8 o'clock on the East Coast here.
Yeah.
Wow. Joe, it always slays me. Hey, thanks for coming back. By the way, everybody listening to the two Joes, that's Joe Thomas. He's in Australia. Follow him, subscribe to him here on Substack. Joe Thomas. He's got a great newsletter out there too called the Joe Thomas Newsletter. The reason I so much like talking to you, Joe, is you're not here with us, but you religiously pay attention.
I do. Yeah,
to what's going on in this country.
Yeah.
Well, start there. Why is that? Why are you so interested in what's going on in America politically?
I think I probably said this last time when we spoke, but because Australia's a smaller country, I think we naturally have an interest for countries that are bigger than ours. And the United States is like the most powerful country on the planet. It's economically the most powerful, but military as well. So I think a lot of smaller countries have an interest to when it's because everything America does can affect the rest of the world. And I think it's the same in Europe and things like that. And when you did the intro, because I was listening to your intro, you picked up very well the fact that a lot of countries around the world will take interest in America, but America doesn't take as much interest in other countries. And I think part of that reason might be because if you're the most powerful country on the planet, it's less interesting to look at a smaller country, but for us, it's more fascinating to look at a bigger country. The other thing is Donald Trump, it's like watching a train crash. It's both horrific, but also in some ways sort of entertaining, but not in a good way, if you know what I mean. So, yeah.
Hey, Joe, a real broad question. If America just fucking imploded, what would that do to Australia? What would that do to the rest of the world? I mean, if we really just came unglued and fell apart.
Well, I think it would have a major impact because Australia, for example, we're in Asia, and obviously we're not far from China and so we militarily, we rely a lot on America. Hi, Sarah. Sorry, I have to say hi to Sarah. She's one of my favorites on the set. And
hi, Sarah.
So without the United States as as a sort of an ally, countries like Australia and even Europe with Russia would be in big trouble. So if America imploded, I think it would empower countries like Russia and China to then basically think, well, we can go. The only country that's stopping us from doing anything is the United States. But if they pull out and implodes, I mean, that basically will mean that China and Russia will become probably the most powerful countries on the planet, and of course they would probably align, and they're probably aligned with North Korea as well. So it would have a massive impact on the rest of the world. Yeah,
It's interesting, Joe, you bring
yeah,
up Russia.
mm,
Obviously, something that Trump has done these first 6 months is
yeah,
really weaken American influence abroad,
yeah,
weaken our soft power.
mm,
From your perspective, China's trying to fill that gap, aren't they?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, and they're doing it all over. So where I live in Australia, because we're not far from China, we have a lot of countries like little islands like Samoa, Fiji, and all these countries, and they don't have a lot of money, right? So they rely on outside influences like China or America to come in and do infrastructure and help with infrastructure building, that sort of stuff. When the United States pulls away from that, it's filled by China. Yeah, they come in and they go, no problems. America doesn't want to help. We will build these roads, but in return, you have to help us. You have to be an ally militarily or all that sort of stuff. So every time America pulls away, China is there to fill that gap, and that's not just in Asia where I live. It's also in Africa and South America. Because if you're a poor country, it's much harder to be, oh, I love America, because at the end of the day, if China is building hospitals, they're going to go with China because they're building hospitals, and America's saying, well, we're not interested. So it's going to be filled the gaps. It's either America or China or Russia. Yeah.
And that's really interesting, Joe, to hear.
Yeah.
Like, you're close to China where you are in
Yeah.
Asia, in Africa, around the world.
Mm,
You said if America departs and China comes in and builds hospitals
yeah.
where America once did, it doesn't matter if America's the good guy, we're a democracy, and
Mm,
China's, a communist country. These poor countries don't really give a hoot or think
no.
about that, right? It's
e-
who's giving me a
Exactly.
hospital.
Yeah. And look, even in America, you have a similar thing, right? But not to the same extent, because a lot of people voted for Trump because they thought he was going to be better economically because there was inflation was happening and things like that. So a lot of people knew that he had an authoritarian slant and all that, and wanted to be a dictator. But they put that aside because they thought he was going to be better for them economically because obviously Trump lied to them. So it's just a human nature thing that people will often overlook things like America, is a democracy and China isn't, or Trump is an authoritarian but Kamala isn't, if they feel like they can economically benefit from the other side. Yeah,
If all things were equal,
yeah,
if China and America could deliver economically to poorer countries around the world,
yeah.
in your mind, Joe, would most of these poorer countries gravitate toward America because we are
Oh,
a democracy, more of a good guy?
yeah, 100%. And it's not only that, like countries like Fiji, Samoa, in all these countries in these small islands that kind of rely on outside help. Um, they would much prefer to be with America, right? So Australia also helps these countries as well, right? But we
Yeah.
don't have as much money or power. We can't militarily say to Fiji or Samoa, "We'll protect you from China." They wouldn't take that seriously. So America has to be a player in this. We help with things like we will help with their hospitals and infrastructure and stuff like that. We don't have the same sort of power that America does. And so, yeah, I really do think that China they will gravitate. It's already happening. They're already
Yeah.
gravitating towards China because America's leaving a gap. And the other thing is that a lot of these countries are looking at Donald Trump and they're thinking he's not that much better, right? So it's not
Yeah.
like it's not
Explain
like
that. Explain that, Joe. Explain that.
yeah. So a lot of countries are thinking that Donald Trump is an authoritarian,
Yeah.
especially outside of America. I know in America as well, they think that. But a lot of countries feel like he's an authoritarian. He's a dictator. He doesn't care about free speech. He doesn't care about his allies. He's kind of aligned himself with Russia. He's aligned, he called Zelensky a dictator and said that he started the war. So we hear a lot of this stuff in other countries, and we think, oh well, you know, are they better than China? I mean, I think America's still better than China because I think it's not just Trump; it's the whole government and all that. But I do feel that the lines have been blurred more, so it's much easier for third world countries to go. We're going to go with China because there's not really a big difference. Yeah,
Man, Joe, that's so
yeah,
fucking fascinating to hear
yeah, yeah,
that line's been blurred. Like
yeah,
China,
yeah,
Xi is a dictator. Well, Joe, Trump's a dictator too. Like even
yes.
to even say such a thing, but
Mm.
it's true.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people don't see a massive difference between them, and that's a
Wow.
shame because they would have seen a difference between Kamala Harris and China. They would have seen a difference between Joe Biden and China because there was a massive goal, and also they were friends of the country. They would come to Samoa, they would come to Fiji, you know, and they would sort of talk nicely about this. All we hear from Trump is as soon as a country is not like the white people in South Africa, he's not interested. I mean,
Do
it's
you
amazing. Yeah,
do last question, Joe, before I get
yeah,
to some specifics.
yeah.
Do do you in Australia and people you talk to around the world,
Mm,
do they think this authoritarian dictator kind of philosophy, what he is, and this animating feature of Trumpism, which is
yeah,
build a wall around America and
mm,
ignore the rest of the world?
yeah.
Do leaders in Australia and around the world, do they think that's just a Trump thing, or it's more of a Republican Party thing, like it's bigger than Trump?
Mm. I think they probably think more it's a Trump thing because I mean, in the past, Republicans have been quite for free trade. You know, what I mean, so
Yeah,
they were like the free trade party, and they were the ones more likely to sort of, in some ways, more than the Democrats, come out and actually support other countries and things like that. Um, and they understood that alliances were really important. I mean, for example, in Australia, we have a place called Pine Gap, and that's one of the most important military basis for the United States because it's where they have all the top satellites. So if China were to invade America, it first goes there. So we have, but on the other hand, that also makes us a target for China because we
yeah.
have that base in Australia. So by leaving that base in Australia, we're helping America, but in return, America's saying, well, we're not sure we're going to help you. And by the way, here's 30% tariffs on your medicines and 10% tariffs on everything else. So it feels like it's all one way. Yeah.
What?
Um,
Hey,
yeah.
where are we at? Every great trade deal, Joe, is
Yeah.
2 weeks away. 2 weeks away. Where the fuck are
Right.
we at with Australia? Do we have a great trade deal coming?
No, like we actually really angry because basically what he's put 10% tariffs across the board on Australia. But where he's really stuffed us up is he's put it on our medicines and
Yeah,
and basically that medicines is going to be so high that and America is probably our biggest market in terms of that. So that's that. Now he's done that whole 90-day thing. So who knows what's going to happen in the end? We know Taco doesn't always sort of go ahead with all of the stuff. Um, but yeah, he's just making himself more unpopular around the world every time he does that. Because I know people, and like you said before, I actually mix with people from the right and the left. I'm on
yeah.
Twitter, all that stuff. So I do associate with a lot of people on the right, and I've always have. And a lot of people on the right in Australia who didn't love Trump, but they were sympathetic to him, like the whole America First. Since he started doing all these tariffs in Australia, they completely hate him now. Like his popularity has gone way down. So yeah,
And the other aspect that's dragged his policy, that's dragged him down in America is, and I'd love your take on this.
mm,
This immigration thing, these
mm,
deportations,
yeah,
the detentions of immigrants in this country.
yeah,
I was a Republican my whole life because I
mm,
believed what Reagan said. America should be that shining city on a
yeah,
hill. Damn it, you want freedom? I don't give a damn what you look like, what God you worship. Come on to America, and you got
yes,
freedom and opportunity. This Republican Party, his Republican Party, is the exact opposite. And
yeah, yeah,
I think, Joe, he's trying to scare
Mm.
any immigrant into thinking of ever coming here.
Yeah.
On what's going on with Trump and deportations and immigration in this country,
Mm.
what's your feeling on how that's being viewed by folks around the world?
Well, I think a lot of people like around the world would probably look at. I mean, because Australia actually does have, believe it or not, quite tough immigration policies,
Hmm.
and that's, I guess it's easier because we're an island, so we don't
Yeah.
have people crossing over. And also in Australia, a lot of the people who are coming over, they're coming over on rickety boats because the people smugglers and a lot of people were dying. So there are different reasons for why Australia, but Australia has a really big immigration. So we have a lot of immigration coming. We're
Yeah.
open to immigration and all that sort of stuff. So we allow a lot of people in. Um, I think where Trump went wrong, and I think in Europe as well, there is this thing with immigration where I feel like there's a middle ground for the Democrats to really grab, and not just the Democrats, but in Australia. In Australia, it's kind of both sides agree, so it's kind of been neutralized. But even in Europe and all that sort of stuff, where I feel like they probably a lot of people in the middle, sort of like the swing voters, independents, probably thought it got a little bit out of control under Biden. But so they might have voted for
Yeah.
Trump because and also people like Joe Rogan and other people, those podcasters, they thought that he was just going to get rid of criminals, and they thought he was, But when he started going to Home Depots and getting, people who were just like trying to work, and he started putting people in El Salvador, and he wasn't really
Yeah.
going after the criminals; he was just going after everybody. I think that's when so many people turned against him, because yeah, and including the podcasters who have all turned against him because of that. Because Joe Rogan said, I never thought he was going to go to Home Depots and start picking people up for yeah,
What?
except for farmers, who happen to
Yeah.
be his constituents. So, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Joe
yeah,
Rogan. Joe
yeah,
Rogan. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah,
Joe, the average Australian
yeah.
less interested in coming to America to visit or whatever with that guy in the White House. Do you
I
hear
think
any of
yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. In fact, the rates of Australians traveling to the United States is way down. It's
Oh,
gone down a lot. Yeah, and a lot of people say I'm not going back until Trump leaves. Yeah, so I hear that all the time. I mean, I'd love to go to America, but I probably won't go until Trump goes. Um, but yeah, I just think
why is that, Joe? Why is that? Like specifically you? Why
yeah.
wouldn't you?
I wouldn't want to like give him I like when I look at the statistics of Australia going there, I wouldn't want to be that extra statistic to say that there's more people going to America,
Yeah.
because I know that a lot of reporters have said to him in the past, um, a lot of travel. There's a lot less people from overseas coming to America since you. So, and he got really upset with that. He was like, "Oh no, that's not true." But it's actually true. People from Europe are coming at a much lower rate. People from Australia and other countries are coming at a lower rate because they don't. Because a lot of people, when they see people get, there's been stories of tourists being getting caught by ICE,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
you know, accidentally. So those stories get get shown around the world all the time, and it's like, oh, well, why would I want to take my family to America if I'm from Spain, I speak Spanish, right, and I get mixed up for a Mexican or something? So yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and every indicator, Joe, backs up what you just said. Tourism's
yeah,
down. People coming to America from all around the world down.
yeah,
Uh, our we're held in much lower self esteem around the world.
yeah.
What do in the pre-Trump
Mm,
America, go
yeah.
back to 2010 or go back to you're so young, Joe. You probably weren't even
Ah,
born in 2000.
yeah.
Go back to 2004, whatever.
Mm.
Generally, Australians have always had a positive view of this country, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Australians have always had an interest in America because, I mean, mainly because of its culture. Every
Mm.
time if you go to the movie cinema in Australia, 95% of the movies are American. If you listen to music, probably 80, 90% of the music is from America. So culturally, and streaming services, TikTok
Yeah.
videos, everything. A lot of it is there's a massive cultural influence in Australia from America. It wasn't as much political because I think a lot of people when it was Obama or before then, although around Obama, they weren't they liked Obama, but they probably because there wasn't a lot happening, they weren't
Yeah.
paying as much attention. Um, I think they were paying a lot of attention during the war in Iraq, 9/11. I think a lot of people started looking at it then. So there was definitely a bit of negativity towards America with the war in Iraq. I think that sort of happened. But after that, it was kind of a bit neutral. But yeah, it was more cultural. Yeah, yeah.
Is it now because he's in the White House again,
Mm,
and this is the second time we've put him there? Does the
yeah.
average Australian think less of America and Americans? Or is it just, Trump's just batshit fucking
Yeah,
crazy and
it's 100% Trump. Yeah, it's not Americans. I mean, I'm on Substack and I'm on Twitter and everything, and I will argue with people, but I don't hate America. I love Americans, and I think a lot of Australians love Americans. It's not personal to Americans, and I think only 30% of eligible voters in America actually voted for Trump. So it wasn't even the majority. The majority of people didn't vote for Trump or didn't vote at all. So I don't think people look at it as American people. I think Australians, because if Australians never liked Americans in general, they wouldn't care that Trump was in there. But just think, well, that's just America. But we don't. We do love Americans. I love Americans.
but Joe, we
Yeah, yeah.
fucking put him in the White House twice. That's our
I
fault.
know.
We did
I
it.
know. I know. Well, yeah. But thanks, Sarah. Yeah, but I do think that I do separate, like Sarah just said, my favorite. I when I d- they do we do separate the people from the government, and that's really important thing. We don't look at the people because
Yeah.
when we're talking when you're like people on TikTok or watching movies, they're not thinking of Trump. You know what I mean? They're thinking, oh, I like that person, or that person's really nice, or whatever. We do separate the two things, and I actually do that when I think of China as well. Like, I don't think the Chinese people are bad people. I just think they have a bad government. So I don't think it's a personal thing against it. I think there are reasons why you voted for Trump, and I think for both times. And I think
Yeah.
I I I don't think it doesn't make sense to me, but it does make sense to me if I was an American. Like the whole 2016,
Yeah.
people want to blow up the system and start. I kind of got that a little bit. I understood that. I wouldn't have voted for Trump, but yeah,
Joe, I voted for him in 16, and that was,
yeah,
I understood that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
wanted, when I went to Congress, I wanted to blow up Washington, D.C. I got that.
yeah,
All right. So outside of every other fucking issue in this country, I want your take on this because I've heard a
yeah.
couple comments from you. The one thing dominating America right now are these
That's me.
fucking Epstein files. Epstein,
Yeah,
Epstein, Epstein.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
From your perspective out
mm,
there, not in this country,
mm.
what is this Epstein files shit? What do you all think of this?
I, I, I personally think it's really fascinating on a couple of areas. One is, I think it's basically. I mean, everyone always knew that the MAGA people, the base. I'm talking about the base. I'm not talking about the
Yeah.
independents and like, were a cult. But I never knew it was a cult to this extreme. Um, Donald Trump, the MAGA base were actually always obsessed with the Epstein files, more than liberals and more than Democrats. Like if you're on Twitter, I'm on Twitter. All the influencers on there, like Laura Loomer, who's like the Rasputin of the MAGA movement, all these Benny Johnson, all these people, they spent the last 4 years saying that the Democrats were hiding the Epstein files
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
they were complicit. This was a mostly Republican, MAGA obsession, right? But then when Trump gets into power and he doesn't release it, then they try to flip it to say, "Oh, well, it's a hoax." It's like, wait a second, you guys were the ones obsessed with it. So I think it sort of shows that there is, and then he comes out and he calls his base stupid and
Mhm.
weak for not
Mhm.
for continuing to talk about it. And I just thought then within 48 hours, they were back to loving him again. And I just thought, well, okay, well, there's literally nothing he can do. When he said I could shoot someone on 54th Street or whatever, right? He wasn't exaggerating. It's probably true. He probably could. Yeah.
Nothing animates his base more than this notion of the deep state.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And this Epstein thing was going to be the mother of all scandals that
Mhm.
finally exposed the deep state.
Yeah.
And Trump was telling him this.
Yeah.
Pam Bondi, our attorney general, Kash Patel, now in the
Yeah.
government,
Yeah.
they were all out there telling him this. And
Yes.
then they come to Washington and they all say, oops, nothing to see there.
Nothing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I talk to the base every day, Joe, like they're
Yeah.
confused. They don't get it.
No, I do think like because I'm on Twitter as well. And I do talk to MAGA people on there as well, and I actually thought it was interesting because for a while there they were holding him accountable. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It wasn't going away, and so then he had to try. So then he had to basically try to do something different.
Yeah.
Because even people like Benny Johnson and Laura Loomer and all these people who are like basically just hacks.
Yeah.
They were like going, oh, something's wrong here, something's not quite right. Then you had Joe Rogan and all this sort of stuff. But the fact of the matter is eventually they did fall into line. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think they have fallen into line. And all it took was Trump bringing out the classics, Obama, Hillary Clinton, the emails, all that, all the classics that he loves to bring out. And suddenly, like that, a lot of them have moved on. And a recent CNN poll showed that his approval rating amongst Republicans has actually slightly gone up,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
amazing. So it's definitely like, even that, because I think what the problem is even if they don't agree with Trump not releasing it, they're not going to become Democrats. It's still their natural home. So they're homeless if they leave the MAGA movement. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that really helped Trump was
Yeah.
that Wall Street Journal article last week.
Yes. Yeah. I think it helped him
Because
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no matter what you think about what was reported,
Yeah.
this gave Trump the opportunity to say, look, the media, they're coming, here they come. The
Witch
bad
hunt.
media is
It's
coming
a witch
after me.
hunt. It's a witch hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
He
they
does.
circled the wagons.
Yeah. Because I think that story, you know, I, it- he's basically tactically he's trying to do 2016 and 2024 over
Yeah.
again. He's
Yeah.
doing that. I'm the outsider. It's a witch hunt. The newspapers are coming after me. The media, so he's recycling that. I don't think it's going to work this time because there's a difference. In those other times when he used it, he wasn't in power, right? He was going against Hillary Clinton, right? Who was coming up after Obama. In
Yeah.
2024, it was Biden in power. He can't pretend to be the outsider when you're actually
Oh,
in power. It won't work. And I think it will work amongst his base, but independents and
yeah.
swing voters, they won't believe it. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. His base
Yeah.
will believe it. And
Yeah.
again, for a lot of his base, it could come out tomorrow that he was with 9-year-old
Yeah.
girls
They won't
and
believe it.
it just wouldn't matter. But to the average Australian, Joe, who is informed and does pay attention to what's going on here,
Mm.
when they hear about this thing called the Epstein files,
Yeah.
is it just noise to them? Is it a scandal? What is it?
Yeah. I think it's very similar to what people in America think because we kind of like people who are online. I think the Epstein thing is more of an online thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think the Trump supporters who watch Fox News above the age of 75 really care about this stuff. I think it is a more online thing. And I think it's the same in Australia. I think younger people who are online on Twitter and all that, they're not necessarily they're hearing all this stuff on TikTok and videos and all stuff like that. It would be a similar situation to what young people in America are hearing. It wouldn't be that dissimilar. So they're hearing the same things, the same stories. I think we are probably amazed at that someone who had this close relationship to to Epstein, right? And he said, oh, he likes people on the younger side and all this sort of stuff. That the MAGA base decided that Trump was the guy who was going to be their hero to
Yeah.
expose the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, for me, that is insane. You could pick anybody else. He would probably be the worst person to pick to be your savior in exposing the Epstein files. I mean, yeah.
It's interesting, Joe. You know that Trump can do everything, anything, and he doesn't pay a price for it.
Yeah.
Um, as a former politician, generally you always worried about opposition research, shit you've done or
Yes.
said, especially in your personal life. But now, because of Trump,
Mm.
weirdly, it's almost like none of that shit matters anymore. I mean, with
Yes.
Trump, none of it matters, but we now see American politicians who have scandals, who've had
Mm.
affairs, who
Yeah.
lie, who've cheated. And it's like Trump has just like made all this stuff no longer character, like no
Yes.
longer matter here.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
do you see any of it down there with your political class, or does personal character still matter?
Look, no, it definitely matters more here than it does in America because we haven't had a Trump figure in Australia, and that's why. And I think we have a very different political system. We have a very, I think I told you last time, we have a very sort of mundane,
Yeah.
boring. They're most of our politicians are bureaucrats. They come from like politics or business or something. They're not reality. They don't come from reality TV shows. so, and so for that reason, and I think that encapsulates America. I mean, where does reality TV shows come from? America. It's all about celebrity. It's all about all that. It's understandable that Trump came up in America, because in Australia we're not obsessed with celebrity or that. And it's all about, when Trump always says, "I came first in the ratings" and all that. It's constantly ratings. Like, if a prime minister in Australia was just obsessed with ratings, people would just think, "Oh, there's something mentally wrong with that person." What's wrong? So it's like,
Wow.
so yeah, so
That's
why?
no, Joe, that's interesting because you're right.
Yeah,
The notion of celebrity, and it's not just Trump,
yes,
it's led up to Trump, but celebrity has
yeah,
become a real big thing in our politics.
yes,
You could argue that in the day that was a big part of Obama's draw. He
yeah,
was kind of a celebrity.
true, true,
There's a calling in America on both sides, but especially on the Democratic side, to
yeah,
find an outsider, an
yeah,
actor, or somebody from outside of politics who's got a
yeah,
brand name to run. There's a
yes.
yearning for that here.
Yeah, I know that's a weird thing. I actually think they're all talking about Jon Stewart, for example. Let's
Yeah.
get Jon Stewart to be that, and not that I think he would be a bad run. I think he'd be quite good, but I think there might be a backlash against it in 3 years' time. Do you know what I mean? Because people might be so sick of the whole Donald Trump celebrity thing that they might actually like want to go back to some normality. But I don't think it's ever going to go back to a Chuck Schumer or a Dean Phillips or anything like that. It has to be. And by the way, I'm not endorsing Zoran Mandami, but it has
Yeah.
to be someone who's more, for example, in that sort of mold of he's talking about cost of living. He knows how to use social media. And he knows, but when Mandami wasn't a celebrity, because on TikTok, being a celebrity can actually work against you because you don't seem as authentic. Authenticity, I think, is a big thing these days with social media. So if you can get someone in the Democratic Party who comes across as authentic, I think that could be a winning thing.
Well,
Because when Chuck Schumer goes on TikTok, he doesn't look authentic.
no.
Yeah, yeah,
No.
yeah.
Joe, you nailed it. It's that word,
Yeah.
authenticity.
Yes.
More than anything, that's what the American voter wants right now. And Ma'am Donnie, no matter what you think of him or his policies, he is
Yes.
that. We
Yes.
also, as you know, are living in a very populist, anti-establishment moment in this country. We've been
Yes.
in it for a while.
Mm.
Trump is, kind of a pretend
Ye-
anti-establishment dude,
Yes.
but Ma'am Donnie has some of those anti-establishment
Yes.
bona fides as well. I think
Yeah.
that's where the Democratic Party's got to head
Yeah,
to.
and again, it doesn't have to, because I think there's a lot of criticism of Mandami's policies, and they can be legitimate criticisms. But where they're wrong is they're missing the forest from the trees because it's not so much his policies, it's how he's communicating with the people. And what Mandami has shown, and what a lot of people now know, is that it's not about money, it's about attention, and it's about
Yeah.
getting people's eyeballs. Because Bloomberg is a very rich man, but he could never get past 2%
Yeah.
because he didn't have the charisma and he didn't have the sort of the way to communicate with younger people. So you do need charisma. It can't just be some random person. When I see Mandami on TikTok talking to normal people, he looks
Yeah.
like someone who's just like a normal dude. And when I see Andrew Cuomo talking, I think, oh, this guy, he doesn't look natural. It looks contrived when he's trying to be like Mandami. Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, and you're telling me, Joe, down there
yeah.
on your island,
Yes.
charisma is not as big of a deal for politicians.
No, it's not as big. Look, it definitely helps to be. I think it definitely helps. You've got to be a good communicator. Even in Australia, you have to be a good communicator. It's just that you don't have to do it in the way. So someone like Mandani could do quite well in Australia because he doesn't come up. He's not hyperbolic. He's not like Trump where he goes, "I'm the best in the world." He's down to earth. So when I say it's boring, you could even look at Mandami in some ways and say that he's more Australian style politics because he's not he's not turning it into a reality TV show where it's all about, look at my ratings. Did you see my crowd size? Oh my God, it was massive. Like, this narcissistic thing to make it about yourself. What Mandami did is he asked questions and he listened. And the biggest thing, I think, the way the Democrats can win is instead of telling people what they should do, they should listen to what the people on the street want to hear. Yeah, and I think that's what in Australia what a lot of politicians do. Yeah,
So and I might have asked you this last time we
yeah,
spoke, but I'm going to ask you again because it's a
yeah,
few months later.
yeah,
Clearly, you love America because you pay attention to us
yeah,
religiously.
yeah.
What deep down, what is your greatest fear for this country?
I, I have a couple of fears. One of the fears I feel like is that there is a significant part, not a majority part of America, who is believing stuff that Trump is saying, which is such obviously a lie. You know what I mean? And when I hear it, the first thing I do is laugh. Now I laugh because I just can't believe it. When Trump just comes out and just starts talking about Obama and that, and he's obviously deflecting away from that. The fact that so many millions of Americans fell for that it's worrying that is there happening in America, right? And that concerns me that a lot of people not being they've lost their ability to be critical thinkers. You know what I mean?
Stop for a moment. Stop for a
Yeah,
moment with that,
yeah,
Joe, because that's a really important point.
yeah.
Like I think Trump's greatest legacy is the destruction of truth, but
Yes.
disinformation and misinformation
Mm,
hold great sway among the American people.
yes.
And that's one of my greatest worries.
Mm.
Do you is that uniquely American? Is that your sense right now? Or can the same be said to a degree in other countries?
Oh, definitely.
Social
Because
media and all
yeah,
the bullshit.
yeah, social media, there's a lot of disinformation in Australia as well. Yeah, the same thing happens. Look, America and Australia, you'd be surprised, is very similar in terms of social media, in terms of what misinformation gets put through. I would say the difference is that more Australians would be more informed, that they could look
Yeah.
at that, they could look at a particular piece, not all Australians, but they could look at a particular piece of information and they just go, that's BS. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's no way Trump could got away with what he got with in the last couple of months with the Epstein files, right? If a prime minister called their own base stupid and weak, right? That would be the end of that prime minister for the rest of it. That would be the end of it. But he called his base weak and stupid, and then within a short period of time, they were like basically acting like Ted Cruz was when Trump called Ted Cruz wife ugly and said that Ted Cruz is dad. If there's something about the Trump people around him where he humiliates them, and then they come back and love him. It's the same with the Republicans. Little
Yeah.
Marco Rubio now he's his biggest fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Fucking Ted Cruz, Joe. He was in the
yeah,
White House last week with his wife, getting their
yeah,
pictures taken with Trump.
yeah. And he
Fucking
called his
Ted
wife
Cruz.
ugly in 2016. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's
So
no, yeah, yeah,
so that's one of your greatest fears for this country you love is how misinformed and disinformed and uninformed the American people seem to increasingly be. Do you have another big fear for this country you love?
yeah. I think the other one is that Trump has sort of, in a way, found out something that I think a lot of people kind of knew, but he's normalized lying. But he's
Yeah.
also not just normalized lying, but what he's done is and you see this recently is that um, a lot of people, I see this American thing happen at the moment, like two children, where a parent has a good child who's constantly never lies, does everything correctly, and then the other one's always bad, right? And Trump is like the bad child, right? And when you get a bad child that does something good, the media in America, like, is sort of representative. They go, "Oh my God, Trump just did something." So do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Joe Biden? We found out that Joe Biden had cancer, and then he sent out this I don't think he wrote it himself, but on social media, he did this normal standard thing. Melania and I care, just like to give our sympathies. He never wrote that, but
No.
the media went wild that he did that, right? Because he did something that all other politicians do, which is basically do a nice reply, right? And CNN, under CNN, they said we have to give him credit for what he said. It's like if Joe Biden or Kamala Harris did a nice thing because we found out someone has got cancer, nobody would report on it because they'd expect them to do it. So he's getting rewarded. He's getting rewarded for saying one nice thing every 100 times. But when
Jo-
Democrats do normal things, they never get rewarded for it. Yeah,
Joe,
yeah.
we've utterly lowered the bar for Trump on every on
He's graded on a curve like a toddler.
we've never seen
Yeah,
so true. So
yeah,
true. I mean,
yeah,
and it's part of Trump's secret sauce.
mm,
Like he does 1,000 horrible things every day
yeah,
and he lies 1,000 times every day. And he's
yes.
been doing this for years. So then eventually, when he tells a lie, it's no longer news.
No, it's
Whereas any other politician tells a lie, boom. But Trump does it all the time. So we say that's just Trump. We hold him to a lower standard.
They do. And and as I said, the other thing is he gets rewarded when he
Yeah.
does
When he,
something normal. He by everybody. Like it's just insane. It's like when you get a child who constantly plays up and they do one good thing, and it's like, let's take him for ice cream. Let's get him a Nintendo Switch. And it's
yeah.
like the other kids going, well, what about me? I always do nice things. But I would say one more thing: authoritarianism. I've noticed a few people in the comments. Authoritarianism is another thing,
Yeah.
which is obviously a concern. I do feel America is moving towards authoritarianism, and even if it doesn't get all the way there, it's letting it open for other people to come in and do the same thing as him, and even push it further. So he's opening the door, even if he doesn't go all the way through. Yeah,
Interesting thought, my Aussie
yeah,
brother.
yeah,
We're moving toward authoritarianism.
yeah,
I would tell you, we're firmly planted in that
yeah,
field right now.
yeah,
But to me, that's my greatest fear
mm,
is that we've embraced authoritarianism,
mm,
we've embraced a tyrant,
yes,
um, and I don't know how we walk that back. It's scary, scary stuff. Hey, I love talking to this Joe
yeah,
down there. Joe
yeah,
Thomas, everybody.
yeah,
Follow him, subscribe to him on Substack, Joe Thomas. He's an Aussie. That's a good thing. He's got a newsletter, the Joe Thomas newsletter.
yeah,
Check him out, follow him, subscribe him. Hey Joe, I really love to hear
yeah,
somebody who doesn't live in this country
yeah,
talk about America, express love for America, and
yes.
criticize America. It's
Yes.
so good to hear.
Oh, and it's great talking to you as well, Joe, because I do love talking about America. I do follow you. I do love a lot of the things that you say. And I think one of the things you say is, we got to be open to talking with people on the other side. I really believe that as well. And I think Democrats need to be open to going on platforms that aren't
Oh, yeah.
CNN, MSNBC online, and they can't just, it's the only way Democrats can win because you've got to win to win. You've got to get eyeballs, and they're not all at CNN. Some of them on podcasts, TikTok, whatever. And I think people should talk to the other side. It's the best thing you can do. Yeah,
Well, and you've said this, Joe. I've heard you say it, and I've said it.
yeah,
Maybe Kamala Harris never could have won. But
yeah.
I'll tell you
Okay.
what,
Yeah.
if from day one, the minute Biden was gone and she became the nominee, if Kamala Harris had gotten the fuck out there everywhere and
Yes.
gone on with Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson and gone on
100%.
everywhere,
Yeah.
she might have won.
Yeah, because see, the problem with what happened to Kamala, and I feel bad for Kamala because I don't think it was I think it was her advisors.
Yeah.
Is we came from Joe Biden, and the thing about Joe Biden was everyone was like, he can't communicate, he can't decline, he's declining. And then you bring in Kamala and you basically hide her, then there's a continuation of
Yeah.
someone can't communicate, and now the next person can't communicate either. But it wasn't Kamala; it was her advisors stopping her from going on shows, which meant that the Republicans were able to define her. MAGA was able to define her because
Completely.
she was doing what they were saying she was doing. So she could have beat that, like you said, by going on everything. Yeah,
I completely agree. I
yeah,
campaign for her every day. I grew to
yeah,
really love her and respect her. But
yeah,
ultimately, and I've been a candidate, it's her fault. She should have told her fucking advisors, go jump.
yeah,
I'm going
yes,
everywhere.
yeah.
Hey, Joe Thomas, everybody, follow him,
Thank you,
subscribe to him. We just love having him on. Joe,
thank you,
my brother, thank you.
thank you, everyone from Australia. See you later. Talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
everybody. Be brave. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Bye.